stable, but she won't leave. And, you know, I know I felt guilty. That's why I felt like if something happened and I left, my God, that would be like the end of all, you know, things to happen. But the reality is that I've discovered is a good parent is a balanced parent. The parent that's exhausted, the parent that's stressed, the parent that's frustrated cannot give their child what they need because they are in a continual state of stress and they are in a continual state of just exhaustion. And just because you're present at the bedside doesn't mean you're there. You're exhausted, you're tired. You know, the slightest thing can set you off. And I just think that for me, I wish I had known that it was okay to leave the bedside and that to take that break, because I became an angry parent after being in the PICU for a while. It was like, you know, this is getting old. It's the same thing every day, and you know, people aren't listening. But I found that I was taking more things personal than I needed to, and that was because I was exhausted and I was frustrated, and it was more of what was happening inside of me. And I found myself taking that out on staff and taking that out on other people. And I watched that dynamic happen in our ICU all the time, and it's a shame. Because really all it comes down to is just taking a break, and it's okay to take a break, and you shouldn't feel guilty about walking away and going to the cafeteria. It's okay. Some of our parents won't even go to the cafeteria, and it's okay to go to the cafeteria, and it's okay to go home for the night if your child is stable. I mean, do you guys feel that that's okay? Has anybody had an issue with that in particular, where they really just strongly felt they couldn't leave, couldn't walk away?
I think for most of us, when our child was sedated, we were okay with going and get some sleep in the mom and house as long as we were just a block or two away.
Right, as long as you were nearby.
But while they were awake, I could do it.
I don't know.
You could do it.
Every evening, we left about 11 o'clock every night, got back about 8 o'clock in the morning. But we weren't allowed to stay in the hospital. I mean, we could stay there awake, but there weren't any beds. But they have them now for the babies that are on ECMO. They've redone the NICU, but 12 years ago, they didn't encourage you to stay the night unless the baby was really sick. But
Again, our hospital rather, is doing family centered care, and we have the chair beds right in the ICU in your child's room, and you can stay.
But
I
when
mean,
Brenda went back,
I think that's awesome.
there was somebody with him 24 hours. We didn't leave him. I would run down to the cafeteria, bring my food up, but I wouldn't make noise.
So you were uncomfortable
Yeah.
with that?
Well, we would take turns. Jeff would come in
Right.
the afternoon, and he'd spend the night. You know, he'd work during the day.
But you were getting a break though, even, I mean, I understand,
Right.
I totally understand, I didn't have a family support, or I would have loved to have said, Mom, stay here and then let me go home and get a good night's rest because Mom's there.
I wouldn't
Knowing
leave-
somebody's there is important, but as long as everybody's getting the break that they need, I
I
think
wouldn't
is
leave him with
the,
anybody but Jeff.
right. Well, and that's who you trust, and that's okay, and that's okay.
I was the same way. I mean, yeah.
But as long as you were getting breaks and
Right.
that you were,
But it took several hospital admissions. His NICU, you couldn't have pried me away with bulldozers.
Right.
I mean, but until they said you have to leave
Right,
at 11 o'clock,
right,
and at
right.
6 o'clock we were back.
Right.
And after having the child, and what you go through in birth, and afterwards being exhausted anyway, and having problems anyway, and then standing there, being there, I mean, it was hard. But like his admissions now that he'll have, I can leave. I can say, I'm going to CVS to get this, or I'm going to the bookstore to get this. But Scott's gonna be there. Don't you dare leave that room. But I can go, and it is a refreshment
Right.
to go and
Right.
come back.
Right.
You are recharged.
yes.
I think Steve and I were kind of the opposite. I think we really trusted our nurses, our primary care nurses, and we went home, which was 2 hours away, 2 weekends. I think we had more of a trouble keeping, we stayed there. We had more of a problem with our family not taking that break that they needed.
And U of M does have facilities there. Because that's, for the first couple of weeks, they have an actual hotel right there,
Right.
right in the hospital. I stayed there at the Med Inn for the first couple of weeks. But, like you, I had already been in that field.
Right. Right.
So I already knew I was driving that 70 miles home once I left the hotel. And I did. Now, out of 54 days, I missed 2 days of going, and that's it. But I still went home. And I had Shane at 6, You know, he was at home. I had to connect with him too.
Right. Oh,
Kevin
absolutely,
never
there's other
stayed at the hospital.
responsibilities.
Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted my husband to stay. He'd have passed out anyway.
So what was it for you guys in particular that, just to give me a little feedback, that helped you trust your medical team?
Within the first, I mean, we had one-on-one care because she was the sickest baby in the NICU. And we had primary care nurses that don't usually become primary care nurses. They like to bounce from sick baby to sick baby.
Mhm.
And they kind of keep, connected, and we found out their story and what was going on in their lives, and I think that helped.
So you had a continuity of care then too,
Mhm.
having
Yeah.
the same, similar
Yeah.
staff
Day and
people.
night.
Yeah,
And I think
that is
having-
important.
I think having other family members there too helped also, where they
Right.
could be in there when the doctors were rounding and that kind of thing. And so if we weren't there when the doctors were rounding, if we gone away for the weekend or whatever, we could still kind of get a report sort of from the family.
Okay.
Did they speak to the other family members? Give
No.
them information?
Not
Did
supposed
me,
to.
she's a nurse, and,
She does, like, there's ways around all that, but.
Okay. Was that
But we always
nurse-
went to the NICU together and we left together.
So our doctors was giving them other information if we weren't there.
We had a list of people.
We had given our
Yeah.
approval that they
Yeah.
know, that they can say
Mhm.
anything they want to them,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yep,
So
we were actually able to
we were fine
name
with that.
and
Right.
tell them, and did you still have the 1-800 number that you could call in, and
Yeah, you can
anybody you
call in.
gave the approval to could call in also?
You can
Yeah.
check and see how your baby was doing, and you can talk to your nurse, and they would give you an update, sort of where they were at, what levels they were
Right.
at.
Right.
I didn't. We kind of had the opposite. It was almost like you were scared to call. 'Cause you didn't want to bother them.
Really, you felt intimidated to call the nurse
Yeah.
and, 'cause you thought she was